So where to start with that mess? Wolves 2, Chelsea 1, rational perspective. Absolutely gutting, devastating to lose the game in that fashion. I can't be too stunned though. Chelsea losing 2 games in a row, which is really concerning going into such a key period of the season. I naturally think again and feel like the winter curse is hitting Chelsea once again for like the 4th season in a row. An optimistic start to the season that gives you hope and promise that even a title challenge could be possible this year. And then we hit December, January, February time, and it completely gets jettisoned basically, and it really brings you back down to earth. I hope that isn't going to be the case, but 2 defeats like this back to back so quickly is going to really dent the confidence, the belief, the way people feel about Chelsea this season, the players, the performances, looking at the strengths of this squad, seeing the development we have so far this season, but then seeing how concerning for me it was tonight. I felt the second half tonight, the way we lost this game was a lot more concerning to the way we lost it on Saturday. On Saturday, we hit the post twice, where it's a mediocre performance, right? But you go 1-0 up in the second half at a tough ground, and the way Chelsea lost control of that game, never regained it, and being done on transition, I mean, it felt like watching Chelsea last season. That's my big concern. Player performances tonight, I think, really below par. Number of individuals, especially in an attacking sense. I'm getting more and more frustrated by Timo Werner at the moment, whether he's out of position, whether he should be central. I mean, you're seeing Olivier Giroud score goals, so I think that's a hard thing to argue at the moment. But he's completely out of the game. I think his passing on the ball is really poor. I mean, you're not looking at Timo Werner to be a Cesc Fabregas on the ball exactly, but I think there were so many times Timo losing the ball so cheaply that really exposed our defence basically and put us on the back foot, that I think was concerning tonight. And I think other teams will look at that as an area of weakness, right? Shifting Christian Pulisic, forcing Pulisic, who had a really good first half, one of the best periods of the game he's had so far this season. He's been on and off with injury. I felt he looked really dangerous tonight in the first half. But then he gets forced out wide, probably because Timo was barely in the game. And unfortunately, shifting Pulisic out to a position where he hasn't really succeeded at Chelsea so far in his career. And, forcing Timo on the left where so many of our attacks were coming from. The goal tonight stemmed from the left. Chelsea really attacked that side very well. And then we lost the creativity and invention down that wing with Christian Pulisic, unfortunately. Pulisic, even on the right, tried to do some things in the first half. But what concerned me was not only defensively and the lack of sort of shape and losing the goals the way we did, predominantly the second goal in added time. You cannot be getting done like that on transition in the final seconds of a game. It just cannot happen. It's stupidity. No team's going to win the Premier League doing that, simply. That has to be eradicated from Chelsea's game. It's too naive. It's too stupid. I don't care if we're trying to win the game. It was not that desperate of a situation to leave that many men forward. And the way we got exposed with speed of Neto and our centre-backs, which have done well so far this season, but have been helped by the fact that they haven't been exposed to one-on-ones too often. Tonight, with that final goal, that was the case. And the experiment or the 4-3-3 that's worked so well recently, tonight, Kante, despite doing his best, I felt there were other players in the team, unfortunately, just didn't play well. So I don't want to really have a go at Kante here. I think he had a decent game tonight, but too many underperformers. And my concern was, as I say, the game shifts towards Wolves after that Podence equaliser, and we can't get it back. And creatively, really poor in that second half after the first goal. It looked like Chelsea in what was a pedestrian game for the first 60 minutes. Not a lot to talk about. Kurt Zuma hitting the bar from a corner once again. So unfortunate not to score there. He's been such a threat from set pieces this season. But other than that, really pedestrian game, wasn't it? But Chelsea came to life at the start of the second half. A great ball in by Ben Chilwell. Great to see us getting more creativity from the left side of our fullbacks rather than just all on Reece James constantly. And Olivier Giroud, I felt it was a mistake in goal by Rui Patricio. I think he probably should have been saving it, but happy days, it goes over the line. We're 1-0 up. Then I expect this Chelsea team to flourish a bit more. And you're sort of thinking to yourselves, with them bringing on Adama Traore, who is a threatening player, you expect them 1-0 down to maybe bring more players forward, basically, open up the game a bit more. And you look towards Timo Werner, who's been isolated, to maybe get more space. That just simply didn't happen. Chelsea... there was nothing going on up front for a majority of that second half, and that's just so concerning for me with a team that has been so good in front of goal creatively so far this season. I don't even think, I know people instantly say, we're missing Hakim Ziyech, we're missing this player, we're missing that player. I don't think that's a good enough excuse with other players on the pitch. Kai Havertz really struggling at the moment. He seems to be playing at a different pace to everyone else. I'm not talking about his demeanour. It just seems that connectively at the moment, he's not really in sync with other players, which is frustrating. Timo Werner's gone right off the boil, and I said a few weeks ago, like against Leeds when he missed all those chances, that, Chelsea were getting away with it. Now we've hit a bad patch of form, 2 defeats in a row. That's where you need Timo Werner, players like him, to step up. He didn't have a lot of chances in front of goal. He didn't miss any chances. It was the same on Saturday. He was completely isolated. But as I said, going into this game, it can't just be an excuse that, well, when teams sit a little bit deeper, Timo's just going to be isolated. We need to find a way to get him into the game. But I think individually he had a poor performance where he could have done a lot more tonight. I felt his decision making was poor on the ball, and I felt that really hurt Christian Pulisic, being basically forced out wide to the right rather than on the left, which is where he's much more dangerous. If you're going to keep on going down the left, for me, you've got to have Christian Pulisic on that side because that's where he can be deadly for Chelsea. And we took off Giroud. Tammy didn't have a lot to do, to be honest. Just from midfield, I thought Mason was poor tonight. Just getting the ball towards our forwards was a real struggle tonight. In the first half, it looked like we had a little bit more zip about us. Wolves structured very well. But once they scored that equaliser, it seemed like Chelsea's heads went, basically. It was a lovely finish by Podence, but it was frustrating, the fact that, Chelsea have been defending corners very well this season, much better than last season. It does come from a set piece. It's not originally from a set piece, but as in a header, a free header or something like that. But the fact Chelsea don't clear their lines is really frustrating, allowing a player with that space. It's good trickery, but, once again, I expect Chelsea to being a lot more just sort of sharp and aggressive, a lot more substance to our game. The frustrating thing is, only a couple of weeks ago, the game against Leeds, game management, the way we controlled and turned that game when it was going against us early in the game was really impressive from Frank Lampard's team. In the last 2 games and predominantly tonight, I saw signs of last season where we lacked game management, we lacked game intelligence. You can't be letting goals like that at the final few minutes, at the final few seconds. It just can't happen. And that's where Chelsea drastically need to improve. I think the concerning thing maybe for the next 2 games, right, where if we would have won tonight, even, draw, disappointing result, you look towards West Ham, who are in good form at the moment. You look towards that Arsenal game as well. There's going to be pressure on Chelsea based on Arsenal's recent form. And then I believe we've got Man City. Not shortly after that, we've got Leicester. So suddenly games, it's the way the mental game works. We're going into a lot of games before Everton and Wolves, like tonight, with a lot more confidence and belief this side can challenge this season a lot more than last and improve drastically. The issue is now you come off the back of 2 defeats and suddenly there's major questions about the team. You're suddenly concerned about us on transitions. Are we going to falter like we did previously? Is that suddenly going to become an area teams expose over and over again? Certain players in certain positions, I think that, you lose back-to-back games. That's not, one's a blip, 2 in a row, especially when you've gone 1-0 up away from home. That's concerning. I think lack of control on the ball, we were really poor tonight. I said on Saturday it was one of the poorest performances on the ball I've seen so far from Chelsea this season. It was even poorer tonight, and that will be concerning to Frank Lampard. In terms of like subs that Frank could have made, I think that the issue he's got at the moment is having 2 natural wide players out at the moment in Hakim Ziyech and Callum Hudson-Odoi, who are 2 players that naturally, when the game's turning, you look towards and say those would be really good players to bring off the bench. Yes, we've got a really strong squad, but unfortunately, Frank Lampard, a bit like last season, timing with injuries, he's got 2 wide players out. If Callum hadn't got that injury, you felt that these are the type of games Callum can really break into. Unfortunately, even when you've got Tino Andrin on the bench, you could make an argument for, still, growing in the team, do you want to throw him in that situation? I think, that's a big call for Lampard to make at the moment. But I think overall, it's just a shame how we've lacked urgency in these 2 games, and it's really cost Chelsea. They are 2 difficult away games. They're 2 teams who have good players within them, especially Wolves. I don't think they should be where they are so far this season, but they've struggled to score goals. They've struggled to create, and it's not a good look that Chelsea go to a team like Wolves and let 2 goals in, allow them to get back into the game. The fact that they had so much confidence and belief and looked like the team probing and going to try and get to the top of the league, they look like the team who could have gone top of the league rather than us. We look like the passive team who had been on a really bad run of form rather than just 1 defeat. That's concerning to me, and I think it should be concerning to Chelsea supporters. I think moving forward, I want to see Christian Pulisic on the left. If you're playing him, he looked decent tonight. Get him back on that left side. That's where he's threatening. In terms of midfield, I think probably bringing back Cover. Of course, you'll look towards Cover sprinting back there at the end, but I felt Cover over Kai at the moment. praying one of Callum or Hakim Ziyech could be back for Monday against West Ham, but I think it's unlikely. And you're looking who else plays in that area. I know there were people before this game calling for a change of formation. Even though we've lost 2 games in a row, I think that's a bit too drastic, to be honest. I think the issue at the moment is certain players underperforming. I think it's easy to look at the formation instantly and go, it's the system that's the problem, right? When players maybe just having a bad run of form, right? Timo Werner's off form when he was on form recently, and scoring goals and looking lively, even on the left. He was getting into great positions. You've got injuries to players. I don't want to see Frank Lampard abandon this system instantly, and suddenly we go back to a 4-2-3-1 compromise where maybe the likes of Jorginho comes back into the team. I think that would be a backward step. I think it's about now looking towards that West Ham game. We've got to be sharper. We've got to be more creative. We have to get our fullbacks into the game a lot more than we did tonight. That's a big issue. When the game swings, Chelsea have to be a lot more better in dealing with that, which they have been recently. That's just a big frustration for me. It was too symbolic of last season for me. It was too chaotic. In terms of other players like Mason Mount, hopefully he can get back to big form as well for Chelsea. Maybe Kai Havertz, giving him a rest, but then the argument could be, in terms of shifting him a little bit further forward. But we saw on Saturday against Everton, when you put him out on that right, he's struggling at the moment, just generally for form to get into the game. So that's another question mark for Lampard at the moment. I felt Kante was trying his best to put out fires when need be, but I felt generally it was a pretty under par performance once again, and Chelsea got what they deserved. I think, as I say, watch that second half again. Other than the Giroud goal, other than little moments in the first half for Chelsea, pretty much for the rest of that second half, once Nuno made the changes, once they got that equaliser from Podence, there was only one team trying to win that game, or looked like they were going to win the game, and inevitably that's what happened. But it shouldn't have happened in the way and the manner it did. Those are my thoughts, a bit of a ramble. Absolutely gutted about that performance. It really is. It's a horrible result. It sets Chelsea back. I'm sure you guys will be sharing the frustration and the disappointment at the moment. I guess, I don't really want to go into league title talk at the moment because I think it's easy for me to go, Liverpool and Tottenham playing tomorrow. For me, it's about Chelsea getting back on the pitch on Monday and putting things right and getting back to where we've been recently for the majority of the time, basically since October when we had that Southampton fiasco. Seeing the development there. We want to see that form again. Chelsea need it because the issue has been in recent seasons, as I said at the start of this video, about winter blues. Because if we do, we're going to be back where we were last season, fighting for top 4, which shouldn't be the way Chelsea are looking at this season. We need to move beyond that now under Frank Lampard. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.